Hello friends, I hope you're doing well. So, I apologize for not making a video in a little while. I've had work throughout this month and throughout August, so I may be kind of booked. But I'll try to get a video out here or there. But two quick announcements before we begin. First of all, of course, check out the coffee shop of Villians. Some good friends of mine who make great content. Much like my own. I'll have all their links down in the description. Support them. And two, as soon as I'm making this, I just hit 100 subs. So I just want to thank you all so much. I very much appreciate you all. It's great just seeing, grinding from 0 to 100 and having loyal viewers. So, kind of as, let's say, a celebration video, since my Slenderman vs. Beyonder video did so well, I was thinking of doing a Composite Zalgo from Creepypasta would run a Marvel Helllord Gauntlet. So without further introduction, let's begin starting with Zalgo. Okay, so much like my Composite Slenderman video, I'm gonna be relying on the Mythos wiki, since I find it to be the most interesting and powerful portrayal which Zalgo and Slenderman have. But before we can kind of delve straight into the ultimate entity of chaos, disorder, and destruction, known as Zalgo, we must first address the unimaginably complex and at times inconsistent nature of the Mythos wiki when approaching it from the intention of broader power scaling. So Slenderman as characters go in there consistency wise, within the wiki isn't the most difficult. His place is made well known as the prime maker and consumer of fears, as well as the figure of dimensional bleeding alongside the quiet, and the sole dweller of the path of black leaves. These are kind of staples, we all know this. On the other hand, Zalgo is a bit trickier. He kind of makes you have to think outside the box more so, with his position of power dwarfing that of Slender, as he holds the power to end entire verses as we know them. Due to this power discrepancy gap, we must briefly reflect on just how impressive this is. So let's kind of begin looking at the broader picture of the wiki itself. So as the Fear Mythos really goes and how it's built out, its structure is kind of revolves around 35 completely distinct verses, all bearing their own completely distinct narratives, only bound together most primarily by the roles of the 24 fears, which kind of revolve around everything, each bearing a prime avatar and endless dimension to complement it. Kinda see each distinct fear as an endless from Neil Gaiman's Sandman series. Some of them are actually pretty interesting, and they're all incredibly overpowered. So as previously mentioned, each verse is drastically different from one another, series-wise, as their own uniquely different multiverses, are stapled together by the fears, Slender, and the distinct realms and dimensions, whether it be the quiet or locations where dimensional bleeding occurs. So these are certain kind of staples which do kind of connect the whole entire Fear Mythos together, but they're still completely different verses on their own. So to give one example of the obscurity and overpowered nature of some of the verses, let's take the Rapture Cycle verse for example, which twists the classic Christian narrative and more specifically how the Book of Revelations plays out and portrayal of the Holy Trinity, which immediately becomes tainted and twisted by the fear's presence alone. So you could see the fears are being superior to Christianity, which we all know how broken that is, and Slender is far superior to the fears, and Zalgo is far superior to Slender. So y'all kind of catch that drift, right? So each verse out of the 35 holds infinite verses inside of that. An example could be the Nomadic verse, being that of one of the 35 main verses, yet once explored within it, it holds an infinite number of verses inside of that, with only a set number having been explored by us as of yet, and those are the ones that are kind of named and explored. So yeah, it's fucking trippy. So we've only really explored 6 of them in this occasion, but there's an infinite number within each of the 35. So much like how Christianity itself is just a tool for the stories like within the Fear Mythos, so too are other like insanely broken verses, be it like the SCP universe or the Cthulhu Mythos. Keep in mind, even like both being included within the power hierarchy, it still stands the same. This would mean Zalgo would be casually above the likes of like Azathoth, Sephiros, or Logos. Since this may seem like a stretch, some verses which were included in the Chaos verse, like what Zalgo and many other verses were doing, his role to completely destroy and rebuild with no one remotely close to stopping him was kind of present, and these included those verses within the stories. And to kind of end, let us like remember that this verse like entirely revolves around like almost solely like metafictional scaling, mainly due to like dimensional bleeding and the quiet, with each verse alongside that holding infinite verses inside of it, which is like easily universal scaling on its own. Like, because you know, there's in many cases there's like cringy YouTube videos of people like editing real life footage saying like Zalgo's here, like, you know, the sky turns red, or, you know, people get pixelated. So a lot of metafictional kind of actions. So yeah, Zalgo really doesn't play, and now let's see how he kind of plays up against the strongest Hell Lords within Marvel Comics. It's gonna be spicy. So basically what we're gonna be doing is Zalgo's gonna be going from weakest to strongest Hell Lords, you know, see where he will stack up and who he will beat. So starting with the weakest, who he will encounter is Surtur, who you can maybe get to like multiversal plus, with some link, maybe higher. And to start off with, his slashes with his sword can cause, you know, kind of like ripples or shakes throughout all 9 realms. Slashes with his swords can easily shatter the Rainbow Bridge like it's glass. He can basically outblitz Odin on like multiple occasions. You know, he outraced him to Earth easily. He can like kind of easily tank like simultaneous blasts from both Loki, Thor, and Odin, and easily get up and just, you know, start crowning them all. He can just, you know, tank the like strongest weapon in the Asgardian arsenal when he was fighting Ymir. Like, you didn't even notice it. He has like, you know, his like magic, mainly fire. With that, he can just like burn Asgard to the ground, just like a bunch of ash. And then lastly, basically, he can just, you know, with a sword, he can just cut through space-time like it's butter. So yeah, that is Surtur for you. And even with all this, Zalgo just comes in and flicks him. So Zalgo moves on. So next on the chopping block, we have Nightmare, who we have a big power jump to outer range, I would say. So to begin, he was basically able to like contain and subdue Eternity himself in kind of his own little bubble of magic. He was able to basically turn all matter in the universe into like antimatter, which is basically just like the entire universe into his own land, where dreams and like reality just bend to his will entirely. He can turn like other fictional stories into his own through like corruption. He's been able to kind of like best or hold back and kind of clown classic Doctor Strange on several occasions, like turn him into stone sometimes. He can like basically create entire like planes of existence just off his own essence, like with the shape-shifting and stuff. And Mikabashi, you know, kind of before he like transitioned to be like the full-on Chaos King, he kind of saw like Nightmare was a good place to start with his powers of corruption. So he kind of prioritized him first and gained huge powers in striking everyone after he killed Nightmare. So with that, he is quite potent. But, you know, Zalgo just walks in, he's like, yo, what's up? You're pretty cool, but yeah, I contain a lot of other verses in my wiki, so yeah, get the fuck out. L. Okay, so next we have Mephisto. So basically now we can just expect the rest are going to be like varying in the outer range, so I'd say maybe like low to mid-outer Mephisto. So firstly, we can see he's been able to like contain Strange before fairly easily and several times, and Strange has said like if Mephisto went all out, like Strange would be in trouble. Like Mephisto is like Ground Satanus, Mephisto can see and like alter like completely different realities. He's like fought and like beaten like various other Hell Lords. He's basically survived like full-on blast from Franklin Richards. You can say that like maybe being a jobber moment or not, up to you. He's basically beefed with a pissed off Galactus multiple times, and he's contained Shima Gorath alongside other Hell Lords, you can see. So he's caught up to Shima, which was probably one of his most impressive feats. So, Zalgo pulls up, he's like, yo, that's pretty cute, got Shima. Cool guy, but hey, that's not really impressive, bro. This is still just one verse, so here's your L, bye, and you're a huge fucking jobber. So next up, I do have Shima Gorath. I know Mephisto has bested him like several occasions, but I'll get into why I think Shima is a little greater overall. So to begin, he's basically just purely infinite and has like hundreds of dimensions. He's said to be like basically the greatest of the old ones, and the old ones are like primordial beasts that like came before creation and are composed of like antimatter. Doctor Strange, being classic obviously, got to the point of just being like scared shitless to the point of not even like wanting to confront him. Like other Hell Lords in the past, like, beat him when they confronted him, but Doctor Strange just wanted to stay away. And the Ancient One basically got into a coma of corruption, and Shima took his body. So yeah, he kind of boloed both. When Shima came into our dimension, he basically instantly brain melded / brain fucked everyone with any sort of magic in them. So I think this is why I think Shima's a little above Mephisto. Is Hell Lords like Mephisto, when coming into lesser realms of Shima, they just turn into jobbers and can't even get far at all. So yeah, I don't know about that. Shima is basically stated sometimes to just purely embody oblivion itself. On other occasions, he's basically just been more powerful than the Galactus engine, which makes Celestials look like fodder. And on other times, he's basically just given hands to the Elders of the Universe, and we all know how broken they are. So Zalgo comes in and he's like, yo, the Elders of the Universe, they're pretty cool, but are they let's see, logos from Christianity? No, they're not that powerful? Okay, stomped. Get that L, Shima. So, taking home the bronze medal for Zalgo to face, we have Dormammu, and this is a big power jump. So, I thought an appropriate way to, kind of make that stated would be seeing a bloodlusted Shima Gorath just shit his pants as soon as Dormammu approaches and just flees. Secondly, keep in mind this is a prime classic Strange. And he was just getting kind of destroyed in the kind of, a magic duel where Dormammu can drain his magic and grow stronger and stronger. On other occasions, Dormammu said he could easily blink Doctor Strange out of existence if he really wanted to. Dormammu has enough power to destroy the Dark Dimension, which contains endless realities. He's been able with his magic to contain the arms of Zom before. During one of his primes, other Hell Lords have all come into meetings to say we need to stop him, he's too powerful. On other occasions, he's basically had blasts with Eternity, which cause trans-dimensional holocausts. And lastly, he has other blasts which casually can harm Eternity level beings itself. So he's a big boy. But Zalgo just comes in, he's like, yo, you're pretty cool, man. You're stronger than Shima, but let's see, for example, are you I contain the SCP verse in my stories. Are you an ant like Sephiroth is to me? Oh, you're not as powerful as Sephiroth? Okay, stomped. L. Okay, the second hardest challenger for Zalgo, we would have Zom, and I'll make this a kind of short and sweet one, since, just a couple feats will just kind of explain it for him, his goofy looking ass. So really, he just threatens the world beyond worlds, far beyond Eternity. Eternity really couldn't do anything to him when, Eternity, was giving Dormammu a good run for his money. And with that, Zom is far above Eternity, and the Living Tribunal even had to come down and stop him. And we know, how many crises have been ignored by the Living Tribunal, but Zom was such a threat that, you know, Living Tribunal had to put him down. So he's that kind of level threat. So, you know, that's pretty impressive. Zalgo would be coming in like, yo, you got the Living Tribunal's attention, but hey, you know whose attention I would get? Azathoth. And you know what? I wouldn't care. So, yeah, L. Next. So, Zalgo has made it all the way. And who does that leave? That leads to Big Daddy Sidorak. So, to begin, Tom Brevat, who's one of like the executive editors for Marvel, said Sidorak is above Zom and Shima fairly easily. Sidorak's powers can like erase reality without much, you know, issues, almost like instantaneously. Dormammu, which, you know, everyone knows as, you know, being this broken, as we just covered, uses Sidorak's bands, same with Strange, you know, with the classic Crimson Bands of Sidorak. You know, that's always a classic. He's easily boloed Galactus and Doctor Strange almost simultaneously before. Sidorak is like outside of natural order and logic and law. He's like not bound to any of it whatsoever. Many like Marvel guides say like he's the strongest magic user ever and can like imprison Galactus without like much issue. He's created the Crimson Cosmos with like fairly quickly, which is arguably like the most powerful like Hell Lord dimension, where he's like basically omnipotent. I hate using that term, but it's probably true when he resides there. He can basically just, it's crazy, like every single magic user, no matter how broken they are, be it like the Vishanti, the Faultine, like being like Dormammu, or the Ragador, basically are just completely helpless when Sidorak is nearby because his presence negates kind of their powers instantaneously, which is whack. Then lastly is that, you know, he can just say be gone to the Phoenix Force and anyone in his realm and just either BFR them or just say like fuck off. So that is Sidorak for you. Zalgo comes in, yo Sidorak, I like your drip, bro. You're probably strongest so far. But, you know, it's just not that impressive. You know, it's where are your 35 verses of infinite verses inside of that, which I can just destroy with ease. So yeah, I'm gonna have to give the L on that Sidorak. Sorry man, you put up a good fight. I clear. L. So yeah, in the end, the winner would be Zalgo, and I don't really see it even being remotely very close. When I really look at the verse, you know, from the broader spectrum, it's just so broken. When I look at it again, I can kind of reflect on the Slender video and say Slender probably beats Pre-Recon Beyonder based on power alone too. But I digress. But for this, yeah, Zalgo is just too much, you know. Just like almost infinite verses which you can stomp, which include entirely different verses like SCP, you know, Lovecraft, etc. And there's Anstrin. And it's whack. So yeah, so don't be like mad if this is the case, since it's a non-canon verse and it's comp, you know. It's just, I think without this he's like, I don't know, you know, both planetary, he can hold the black hole canon, that's all he can do. So don't worry. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed. Comp Zalgo is fucking overpowered. I'll try to make another video down the line, maybe in a week or so, 2 weeks. But until then, peace out guys, thanks for watching.